Let me. Suspected gunman was 22-year-old Jared Lee Lohner. It has a list of the people that were hurt. Mystery surrounds suspect. Lived in Tucson with his parents. And at least in the top parts of the story, there's no mention of this other man. So, but immediately, yeah, of course, I can't help but link things in my mind with the inflammatory rhetoric of the Tea Party, the quotes about liberty, the Tree of Liberty having to be, and I like Jefferson, I thought he was a great man, but, sometimes you have to take things in the context of the times, and, the Tree of Liberty has to be like fertilized with human blood or something like that. And you hear the extreme right, that's one of their favorite quotes. That's sort of like the Bible thumpers that are pro-death penalty. First time I ever had to argue a death penalty thing in a debate, the guy I was debating, and at the time I was pro-death penalty, the guy I was debating was using Bible quotes in his debate. And it was something about sins can't be washed away except by blood. And the guy was using that as an argument that you have to kill somebody to make the sins go away. I said, man, dude, you're the guy using the Bible here and you don't even know it? They're talking about Christ's blood, his sacrifice for everybody, okay? It's not about somebody has to die. That's Old Testament, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, But I digress. So these quotes, these things like blood to feed the tree of liberty and stuff. You have to take it in the context of the times. Do we really need to take it literally? Once again, it's people. The conservative right, the in religion, and I think in politics too. They tend to take everything literally. Like those Bible people that really, really believe that God created the earth in 7 days. That sort of thing. Where the real theologians just go, according to God, God does not go by a 24-hour clock, okay? The theologians the smart theologians will say that God has no perception of time. That is for those of us that believe in a God. Boy, I've been watching marathon old Battlestar Galactica. Not the old one with Lauren Green, but I never thought I would like it because the original one was so cheesy. And I started watching them. I really got into it. And there's a lot of talk about gods and God and non-belief in there. Kind of got me thinking a little bit. So anyway, this shooting, and I mean it's tragic. And who was it? I made a video about a conversation talking to Monk. Yeah, it was all right. I mean, sometimes it'd be nice to do an interview where they're both in the room or something. But Live Life Always too said, and I believe she quoted this from somewhere. It says, it's in quotes, during his campaign effort to unseat Giffords in November, Republican challenger Jesse Kelly held fundraisers where he urged supporters to help remove Giffords from office by joining him to shoot a fully loaded M16 rifle. Kelly is a former Marine who served in Iraq and was pictured on his website in military gear holding his automatic weapon and promoting the event. So this whole link with guns. Do you remember in Arizona during those town hall meetings, that was the place that was so controversial where people were openly carrying weapons to the town hall meeting. And I mean, it's sort of this whole rhetoric was sort of moving towards this. Now, I'm not saying that that violence is exclusively of the extreme right. The extreme left practiced violence. I would have to categorize Charles Manson as being in the extreme left. Timothy McVeigh, extreme right. And Timothy McVeigh, his whole problem with the government started with the gun control laws because he was involved in gun shows. And then, of course, he used Waco as the excuse. But really, he was really, really tied into this gun control thing that was really firing him up. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I'm not the only one that thinks that. I mean, you look at the history, and so domestic terrorist right there. And then we had domestic terrorists with the Simonese Liberation Army, which was on the left, and then we had the Weathermen in the 60s. But see, you look at the time, the context of the times, is that the country during Vietnam was pretty much in control by the right wing. After the Kennedy assassination, Lyndon B. Johnson came into power, and then after Lyndon B. Johnson sort of like ran things out, kind of used up his political whatever currency he had, it became more of a right-wing country, and that's what you give rise to a fringe group. So when Obama came in office, speaking of which, Jeff kept saying, "Oh, if Obama comes into office, there will be martial law. They'll be fighting in the streets." Jeff's always making these predictions about the end of the world. Oh, he also said that the gun control issue will, he either said kill liberal thought or end liberal thought, or the liberals will go away or something like that because of the gun control issue. Incidences like this shooting is what keeps the gun control, the liberal voice alive. If you want liberal thought to go away, to their voices to get smaller, make some of these things that they want happen. It's a squeaking wheel that gets the grease. It's like the more injustices, the more racism, the more homophobia is, then the left will get loud. The more injustice to the worker, the left is going to get louder. Once these things are met, we'll quiet down. I told Al Brookman, I said, hey, because he said, what about that liberal college professor that shot somebody? I don't know who he was talking about. But I just said, hey, when a right-winger supports gun control, I'll support that right-winger. I'll support him as far as gun control goes. I mean, what side is the one talking about gun control? It's the left. Now, I myself am a gun owner, and I do know the Constitution talks about the right to bear arms. So I don't want to go down that path. What I'm just saying is that the way the culture is changing, we have a president who's half black, a person of color other than white, and there's a reactionary thing, hence the Tea Party. Okay, and this has been building up during the Bill Clinton thing, where remember everybody, those militiamen training in the woods. Oh, getting back to the Unabomber, I would put him on the left. Okay, because he was sort of anti-technology sort of thing. It's hard for me to peg him, but I'd have to say Unabomber probably came more from a leftist ideology. Somebody correct me, challenge that. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about that one. But yeah, remember the militiamen training in the woods? Remember in the South, all those armed KKK people? That's all right wing, okay? Extreme right wing. And remember, this is sort of like, you should already know this, that it's in a circle. When you go extreme right and extreme left, it goes around and meets itself at the bottom. That's why so many people meets it around. And it's almost indistinguishable. That's why people get confused between Stalinist communism and Adolf Hitler's Nazis. And because Adolf Hitler called it the socialist movement, that doesn't mean anything because communist places call themselves a republic. Okay, but Republicans don't say, well, they're a republic, they're Republicans. No. Just what you call yourself doesn't really mean anything. You just have to look at what they do. You have to look at their actions. And so Stalinist, genocide and Hitler's genocide, they're both their methods, even though one was left and one was right. They're so extreme that they become almost indistinguishable, taking of freedoms away. But one thing you can tell, though, is that corporations were alive and well under Hitler's regime. Okay? That's what makes him a fascist. Okay? Stalin broke up all the big companies. There were no big companies under communist Russia. It was all the state, and that's what makes it a leftist. Okay? So but anyway, the temper of the times. That's what's happening right now. It's this backlash, and I can't help but make the link of this stirring rhetoric and people in Arizona bringing guns to town hall meetings, and and all this talk about violence. And here you go. I mean, oh, and the other point I was making, the argument that it's getting back to what I said earlier about people with undiagnosed mental illnesses just walking around free, and they're free to buy guns and etc. The argument is, well, this guy was crazy, and the gun laws are in place to keep crazy people like that from getting guns. Well, obviously, he wasn't diagnosed as being insane first, right? I mean, and I'm not talking. Look, I don't want a Minority Report where people are picked up on the street because they're thinking of doing something. And that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying simply, the argument is that there's laws in place to keep insane people from getting guns. I'm saying it should be a little difficult for everybody to get a gun. Maybe, why don't we try this? They do a psychological evaluation before you can get your gun. Okay? That would be a great way to screen people out. Because, I mean, you kind of have to take a test before you drive a car. Why not? Why not? Like the same way you drive in a car. I don't hear people. Of course, the Constitution doesn't say you have the right to drive, does it? I don't know. Food for thought. I mean, they do have criminal background checks in some countries, but maybe in some states. Statistically, you take a crowd large enough, whether a group of war protesters or a Greenpeace rally or a gun show or a Tea Party meeting or whatever large group of people, a football game, whatever, you take a large enough group of people, statistically, the odds are, it's going to happen, the law of averages, there are going to be people with undiagnosed mental illnesses in that crowd who are phobic and suspicious and hold a grudge and walk around alluding to gang ties and what a tough guy, puts a magazine under his shirt. Oh. So in case somebody tries to shank him on the street. All right, I guess that's it. I rambled on long enough. Oh, that fish and bird thing. Now that's got me wondering. I don't buy the firework explanation so much. Something strange is going on. The dead fish thing, maybe a cold snap could have brought that on. It was the explanations. The birds were by some sort of trauma. They looked like they were killed by blunt force trauma, and I'm sure if they were like within proximity of an explosion, that might happen. It still could be a fireworks thing. But it sort of seemed to happen in another part of the world, I thought, something in Sweden or something. And then the dead fish thing, okay, cold snap, maybe the water got really cold suddenly and the fish couldn't handle it. Okay, that's a possibility. Maybe some sort of secret government experiment. I wouldn't say that's that far-fetched, But what really bothered me is when you first started looking at the stories, Yahoo News or whatever on the internet, they kept talking about the end times, signs of the apocalypse. And I said, no, come on, this is serious journalism. Why don't we just talk about the facts and not put in this like crazy end of the world stuff? It's bad enough people will think that on their own. They got YouTube to talk about that. Why is this on the friggin' USA Today, the website? Of course, USA Today, they suck anyway. All right, that's it. Okay, everybody, have a great week. I've talked long enough. And thank you for watching. Enter the Fez. Cheers.